Hi, welcome to Property118.com. I'm joined today by three lovely ladies who I'm a really big fan of. First of all, Serena at HMOlandlady, Tessa Shepperson, who's a solicitor practicing online under the website Landlord Law, and Helen Kirkham, also with an HMO background and runs a business in Norwich called HMO Cleaning. Serena, I understand that you've got some great stories that you're going to be sharing in the blogs over the future months. Can you give us an example of some of those?
Well, I think with this kind of market that I deal with, some of the stories that I've got, you really couldn't make them up in your wildest dreams. Because HMOs tend to attract the type of person who all they can afford is a room in a shared house. They tend to have come from quite difficult backgrounds. They may have lost their way a bit. Quite often they don't really have a past to speak of. They seem to have just materialised like aliens, age 30, on my doorstep. And with them comes their own set of behaviours. And sometimes they think these behaviours are normal, and obviously I, as a landlord or as a landlady, try to police some of those behaviours because they're not conducive to the rest of the household. So, for example, antisocial behaviour, drug taking, threatening murder, anything like that is not really going to make a very happy house.
Sounds really scary. Why are you in this business?
Because it's much more fun than renting to a family with 2 children. They're great. I really love my HMOs and I will wax lyrical about them for a long time. I love HMOs for lots of different reasons, mainly because I'm a bit of a control freak, so it allows me access into the properties when I like, just to make sure that they're running okay. I can check on the electricity, the gas, I can do all the maintenance. I don't then have to do the, I'm sure Tess will tell me off for this, but I don't have to do the 24-hour notice to go into the communal areas.
Right. You don't anyway.
I don't anyway.
Fine, yeah. You have to do to go into their rooms.
Yes.
But the communal areas, you should be okay.
Wow, I think you can see that Serena's got some great stories to tell on Property118, and I'm really looking forward to these coming out on her blogs. Helen, you have to clean up the mess, and you look after a lot of landlords that are HMO landlords but want to distance themselves from the sort of the day on day off type thing. So, what kind of business do you attract from HMO Cleaning?
I mean, HMO Cleaning initially was set up purely for my own properties, so that I could go in and get the communal areas cleaned, and because nobody wanted to do it. The tenants were quite happy to do their own mess in their own bedrooms, but when it comes to the communal areas and you've got tenants handing in their notice because someone's left a nice mould thing growing in the corner of the room, and it's just got really disgusting, and I thought, right, I'll go in and do it myself. It was pretty grim to start with, and I'd always distanced myself from it as well because it was not a part that I really wanted to get involved with. And so yeah, I started off doing my own properties and then doing them for other landlords as well. And you get to the point where you think, I have probably seen it all, but now I've spoken to Serena, I know I haven't seen it all at all. And yeah, it as a landlord, I did feel a lot better knowing that the condition of the communal areas were absolutely spot on. Although the downside of it was that the tenants would expect me to turn up maybe every 2 weeks on a Wednesday, and so I had to start varying the day in which I would turn up at the property, because they would leave everything out on purpose, knowing that I would go in and clean it up.
You'd wonder, listening to these guys, why they're actually smiling as HMO investors, wouldn't you really? Tessa, there's lots of legal stuff that goes around this, and I guess that you're the person that landlords will turn to when they're sort of stuck with that sticky situation, or they're wanting to create a specialist tenancy agreement for these types of things. You've got quite a lot of people that come to your site. I mean, what sort of profile of people? You're a solicitor. You don't have offices where people come and see you?
No, I don't. It's quite nice, really. In fact, a lot of solicitors are actually members of Landlord Law and use it to look things up before their clients come in.
It's so competitive in price, isn't it? I mean, what is it these days? £180 a year, is it?
£180 a year, and for that they get unlimited tenancy agreements and both of my do-it-yourself repossession kits. Absolutely. And me on tap in the forum, so it's quite good, really.
What I liked about the site is that if you create a bespoke tenancy agreement, can't you? So if you want to be able to charge somebody a little bit extra because they want to have their dog there. And
we do have special tenancy agreements for pets, because it is a problem actually, which the Dogs Trust have highlighted, that there are a lot of people who've got pets, and people who have pets are nice people often. They're not horrible, but they're not all sort of dangerous dogs, you know.
Absolutely. I actually love, as a landlord, renting to people with pets, because, you know, you look at the advert in the newspaper or on Rightmove or whatever it is, and it says no pets, no DSS.
I know, it's such a shame.
It is, because I think to myself, we're a nation of animal lovers.
Yes.
And, you know, not, as you say, not every animal's going to want to eat your arm off. So I actually meet my tenants and find out what the pets are like. And more importantly, I'm looking at how they look after the house, how the pet looks after the house, and how the pet interacts with me. Now, if there's a great big dog trying to eat me, I'm obviously going to say no.
You need to use my special pets tenancy agreements for that, because I've got a special tenancy agreement drafted up for that, and it's got details of the dog, whether they be microchipped, details of the vet, the breed of dog, and very, very importantly, the name and address of someone who will look after the pet if anything happens to the tenant. Because if you haven't got that, then you as landlord will be responsible for that.
That's actually a really, really useful way of getting an additional referee, so that if you do have a tenant that disappears, then you've got somebody that you can go to get back to them as well, haven't you? So
it's been specially done for tenants, and it's got special clauses about, you know, if you think that that they're ill-treating the pet, you know, you warn them that you're going to call the RSPCA, that sort of thing. So it's a special tenancy.
One of my tenants rescues rats.
Really?
They must have a lot of rats.
She asked if she could have an animal, and I said, well, what kind of animal? Because I often, surprisingly, a lot of people want to house a dog in a room, and I said, well, it's not really very fair on the dog, because the dog needs space to roam about. It's not fair, it's very confusing for the dog if it's hearing lots of people coming and going, so no. I've also been asked if they could have a communal cat, and I said, well, who's going to pay for the vet's fees? Don't know. So eventually the lady settled on rats, and she rehomes them from a special rat rescue centre, and she's currently got 3. The last 2 died a couple of weeks ago, and she keeps them beautifully. I have to say, they're clean, they're tidy, she lets my children stroke them, she absolutely thinks they're the best pets in the world, and she's created whole things for them, and they are beautifully kept, I have to say, they're amazing. But I don't tell too many people.
Serena, don't you?
Oh, they're lovely. I love all of them.
I'm sure you do.
But
and obviously you're in this business because, you know, let's face it, the thought of having rats as pets, drug dealers, people who've just come out of prison, you can't reference them. You know, it's not exactly every landlord's dream tenant, is it? So it's got to be a little bit about the returns as well.
Of course it's about the returns. I mean, we fell into it because after we'd renovated a house and turned it into a bed and breakfast down in the New Forest. And when I was pregnant with my 3rd child, we thought, right, we've got a little bit of money, what should we do? Everybody was on the buy-to-let wagon, let's go and have a look. And we looked at flats and we looked at all that sort of thing, and we just came across this house that had 4 rooms in a shared house. It wasn't billed as an HMO or anything like that, and it had, I think they were all Polish or something like that. And we just looked at the returns and went, wow, that's fantastic. Completely naive, didn't even think about the consequences of it, went, well, just looked at the numbers on the paper and went, brilliant, that's what we'll go for. And it kind of spread like that until the reality of then me having to deal with them on my own kind of hit home. But then I realised there was a social aspect to this, and it's not just about renting property, it's about actually providing somewhere for people to feel safe and to call home in a way that I enjoy managing. I know that you and other people enjoy letting out whole houses where they just give the family
it's very hands-off for me.
Very hands-off, and you worry about your paperwork and all that kind of thing. I don't worry about, I mean, obviously I do the amount of paperwork I have to do that's legal, but I don't enjoy it, I hate doing it, and I would rather sit and reference check a person by the fact they can look me in the eye, string a sentence together, and know that they will actually be a good tenant. Obviously I do reference check them to a certain point, but if I look too deeply into their past, I'd be frightened off.
Well, that's why we love having you on the site, because, you know, it's complete diversity, isn't it? You know, I'm one of those landlords where, you know, the most hands-on I ever get is changing a light bulb, and sometimes I have to call somebody in if I can't get it out of the socket.
How many landlords does it take to change it?
Quite a few if they're all like me. I contract pretty much everything out, which is one of the reasons that Helen and I know each other. We've known each other for years and worked with each other in the past, but Helen's done a bit of cleaning work for us as well, and it's great at end of tenancies. And I know that you do a lot with students as well, don't you?
Yeah,
so,
love the student side.
Students want their deposits back, don't
Yeah.
they? So, that's where you're picking up quite a lot of work as well. Yeah. Tessa, you've written quite a lot of books, haven't you, on landlord law?
Yes. I wrote my first book for Lawpack before I actually set up my website. The website is best because it's updated all the time.
Of course.
But I've set up a separate business with my web designer, which is quite fun because that's not me as a solicitor, it's me and Jill selling things online, and I've written a few books. One of them, actually, I made a book out of the series I wrote for Property118, and that's on
Which
sale.
was superb. It was actually the best series that we've ever featured
Oh,
on
thank
Property118 in terms of number of views, and I really enjoyed it, and there's one or two things I picked up from it. It was great that you turned that book into a PDF and made it an ebook.
Yeah, so
and you also work with Ben Reeve-Lewis. He's one of your bloggers as well as on our site as well. So, you know,
I discovered him.
You did.
I discovered him. He commented on the blog.
Well, I didn't steal him, but I've borrowed him for a little
Yeah,
while.
you can borrow him. It's all right.
And I know Serena's a big Ben Reeve-Lewis
I'm
fan as
a
well.
massive Ben Reeve-Lewis fan, absolutely. He was incredibly supportive when I started blogging because I was slightly concerned that anybody would be that interested in what I had to say, and he was very encouraging. Then Tessa was very encouraging as well.
It's a good blog.
And I realised, thank you, and I realised though, again, it's coming from landlording from a completely different way, in the same way that Ben is probably the only
Ben's
council
a tenants
employee.
and relations officer.
He's
Actually,
brilliant.
his job is to prosecute landlords, and he seems to want to do everything but he gets results, doesn't he?
Well, he does, and I think he's a very good part of the community because, let's face it, it's very difficult to talk to anybody from a council. And the fact that Ben actually is talking to other people from the other side of the fence is fantastic, and obviously then coupled with Tessa's solicitor knowledge, it just makes for a really good form. So you're not just talking to a solicitor, you're not just talking to a landlord, you're actually talking to somebody who can represent the whole market from different points of view, and I think it's quite powerful.
Absolutely. And whilst we're talking about books and Ben Reeve-Lewis, I know it's your intention to write a book, isn't it?
The reason when I set out on the blog, one of the things Ben said is, well, where do you want it to go? And I'm not selling a product, unfortunately. I haven't got anything to sell. It was really a bit of a vent for some of the stories because I really wanted to get them out there to just show the real world, real people, what actually some of my tenants have to go through just to get a roof over their heads. And it's a tough world out there, and I have to say I'm really glad I'm not at the bottom of the heap.
So you started off blogging on your own blog, which of course you're going to keep going, but now you're with Property118.
Yeah, I feel quite flattered to be asked by Property118 to do some blogging on there. I mean, I did it to see if I could write. Obviously, I think once my mother and her friends had stopped subscribing, hopefully I've got some other people out there who are looking at it. And then obviously I was very flattered to be asked by you to also blog on that as well. And the way I've done it, actually, I really enjoy writing. It's I lock the children away in the garage with a packet of crisps. I don't really, honestly. And I just sit down and I get in the mode and I get a little sentence that I want to talk about, and I love it. And I love that feeling of being able to write something from the point of view that I know about, and then people reading it. It's a very, very flattering. And so the step to go to you was the next step up, because obviously you have far more readers than I do. And I really admire Tessa's work as well, so I tried to get on to commenting on some of her stuff as much as possible, but because it's quite broad range, I don't have the experience. And what I would like to do is to eventually write a book about some of the stories, just to show people what life is actually like at that end. And yes, if Ben wanted to come in, I would very much like him to contribute to it, because I really like his style of writing. And then maybe we could have a bit at the end of Tessa and the solicitor side. So again, you've got the whole group, and it's not just about how to be a landlord, it's about the social repercussions, everything, but in a funny way, something that's readable and not boring.
Fantastic.
I think one of the things about writing a blog is that you have to enjoy doing it. And in a way, that's the thing in itself. I mean, I first started my blog about 5 or 6 years ago, and I didn't start it for any marketing purposes. I use it for marketing now. I did it because I wanted to write.
Property118 was exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know, I'd just come out of another business, and I just wanted to start writing down some of my experiences, and it kind of metamorphosizes. But I think if you start off writing a blog for commercial purposes, if you started writing commercial purposes, it kind of gets off, and people lose interest in it. I think when you're just genuinely giving, then there's plenty of people out there that want to listen, isn't there?
Yeah, but I think you need to enjoy writing. I mean, I love writing. I mean, I do a post every day on my blog, well, every weekday, and I'm tending to do them at weekends as well, which is a lot of writing, but I like it.
Again, yours are very readable. I think it's about, there's one I'm reading on Copy Blogger at the moment, it's about making the content readable. And picking something that there's a beginning, a middle and an end, somebody's getting a little bit of information out of, and that they want to then read your next one. And let's say a lot of Tessa stuff is very relevant, unfortunately not sometimes to my market, but I always click on it. Is it relevant to me? Brilliant, I'll carry on reading it. If it's not relevant to me, I have to, you know, be honest. But it's also, so many people are writing blogs, and like with yours as well, how do you make sure you're part of that sort of newspaper that everybody's reading your bit that day? Because what I've found is, I mean, I can only work between 10 and 3 after I've taken the kids to school, walk the dog, and then pick them up again. And I'm spending an awful lot of time sitting in front of the computer reading stuff, when really I should be protecting deposits and doing tenancy agreements and doing something. And so it's sort of putting it into snapshots. And Ben's very good at doing that on Twitter. You know, look at this article, look at that, or look at that. And you do look at it, but you have to be quite disciplined. And I think the challenge for all of us is to make sure that we are the first thing that people read that day, and then they get on with their work.
Indeed. Now, Helen, and I'm very conscious that we haven't invited you in the conversation too much, but you come from this from a different perspective. You're not writing on the blog or anything like that, but you are a user of Property118.
Yes.
Can you just talk us through what you find useful about it?
I think the thing that I always look forward to is the weekly email, because I don't always have time to log on myself and have a look through everything. But when I get the email, I'm like, right, I'll quickly log on now, and it brings up all the different articles, and it's like this.
And you can't read them all, can you?
No, it's like a little magazine being delivered to me. And
it is, and you kind of pick out the one that kind of interests you at the time.
Absolutely love it. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you for joining me, ladies. I know that you've had a fantastic, well, a massive journey here. You've come all the way from Eastbourne to Norwich today, so thank you very much for that. I know you two ladies are...
I've come all the way from Norwich to Norwich.
You have, and so's Helen.
Norwich, yeah.
I'm from Norwich as well, so I think it's a good venue, but perhaps not for Serena. But thanks for joining us, and contact details will appear at the end of the video, so do check out their own individual blogs, as well as reading what they have to say on Property118. Really looking forward to seeing your book, Serena, and thanks again for joining us.